interest rate is a reflection of the risk associated with a deal. Like, you got to get your head wrapped around that. And so if there's a ton of risk in a deal, you still feel confident about it. Well, you need to increase your interest rate because you need to protect your capital. Don't see it as being greedy. You got to look at it as there's really a science to it. It's math, and you need to be able to look at that and understand what that is. And so you need to figure out the risk, and then you can determine what that return is going to look like. If you do it well, there's a reason that finance makes the most millionaires and billionaires in the world. There's a huge, immense opportunity. Almost in some sense, it's infinite because there's so much capital out. There's so much opportunity in that world. You can really scale it to be as big as you want to. And it doesn't have to be a massively cumbersome business if you do it well.
Or it could be small on the other side of it too, right? You could run a very small shop with
and do
5
very well.
deals and $1 million in capital, and you'd have an excellent source of income.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Canadian Private Lenders Podcast, a show covering the private lending industry, the mortgage broker space, and the Canadian economy. Your hosts are Neal and Ryan and Ryan McNeil. Enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's episode 90 of the Canadian Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts, Ryan and Neal. Neal, welcome back, buddy.
Thank you very much. My headphone's off, so give me a second.
Okay. All right. We'll let you go a little bit longer then. Things going well, Neal, with you back in the saddle? No traveling the world again?
No more traveling. Nothing booked for the first time probably ever in my life.
You're lying.
And I'm excited.
Those are lies.
Yeah. But for now, I'm going to here all summer and get things locked down. I sold my house. So.
Enjoy the Halifax summertime weather.
Yeah. It's actually amazing.
It is. We got a bit of rain this week, but overall, I feel like it's been really good the last couple summers here.
Yeah.
This is the time to be here, right?
I used to travel every summer and didn't really appreciate it. And then I stayed last summer for most of it. And I remember just walking around being like, wow, the city's really nice. And I go other places and I'm like, their cities are so beautiful. And I was like, oh, we're also that. I just am never here to experience it.
We were downtown, Leah and I were downtown last weekend or 2 weekends ago. And just walking along the waterfront on a Friday night, which we just don't do anymore because we're old and have kids.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. And there was so many people out. Yeah.
It's just bomb.
And beautiful evening. It was
Patios
really cool.
Are full.
Patios are full. The whole restaurant scene downtown. Halifax has done it up nice.
It's good now.
Yeah. Speaking of Halifax, before we get into today's topic, I sent you this article, Neal. This is the title: Halifax housing costs now on par with Toronto. How about that for a headline? Do you believe it? This came from the NDP party, so no offense to the NDP party, but just
are they talking about ownership or renting?
Proportion of before tax income spent on housing. The key takeaway here was that in Halifax it's approximately 31%, whereas in Toronto it's 30%. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
And I can speak to this because I lived in. So go ahead.
Is it ownership or rental? Did they say?
I think it's either or.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a blended
stat.
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me here, but I can speak to this because I've seen both sides. I lived in Toronto for 10 years, and now I've lived in Halifax for almost 10 years. And I can tell you, as soon as we moved here, everything was more expensive, except housing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is more expensive. Grocery store, exactly. Grocery store is scary. Grocery store, without a doubt. What else?
Everything. Your property taxes, your hydro,
So that's where I wanted to go.
Power, insane.
Everything.
Home insurance, insane.
Everything.
Hurricanes,
100%.
The only thing we might be cheaper on, I think, now is car insurance. Because Toronto's
whatever, though.
Shitstorm in their traffic.
There's no marginal
difference. That's like a $50 a month.
Yeah, exactly. So, but taxes was another thing. Effective tax rate, earning the same income, 10% more here.
Oh,
it's ridiculous.
And
now that housing's gone out this much, this does include rental data as well. So, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to see that we've come to this. But here we are.
100%. One thing. So same thing. I moved from Ontario and I moved here. I was younger, so I wasn't paying bills yet, but I was old enough to listen to my parents bitch about how every single bill had gone through the roof, and their income.
Alcohol was the other thing. It just came to me. I don't know how.
Is it more expensive here?
That. Way more expensive
true,
here.
Actually, because it's NSLC. Yeah. Well, they still have a liquor commission there, but it's not nearly as crazy.
It's just whatever. The taxes on it are just not the same.
And then you can, if you want to double down, go to Alberta.
Totally.
Then it's like another
That's a different country.
Yeah, that's literally different. They're working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one thing I think that in some sense might be a saving grace here is in this housing correction that we're going through in Ontario, where people individually own them, so they're all feeling the correction. Locally, it's all investment groups and families that own all the investment real estate, and they're going to feel the correction. Versus you're seeing here, single-family homes haven't taken any hit.
Yep.
Condos really haven't taken any hit. Like just housing, independently owned housing has not taken a hit, whereas investment has. Versus in Toronto, almost all the real estate is looked at as an investment.
For sure.
And everyone's taking a hit.
And those numbers are surely taken into account there, that GTA prices have declined substantially
30%
in the last 2 years. Well, not in Toronto proper. I don't know if that's considering Toronto or GTA or what data is based on. But yeah, if you look at surrounding areas in the total GTA, you're down double digits and close to 20% in a lot of areas. So, and Halifax is still at its peak.
Yeah.
So
I think if it all blended, it's down 30.
Does that mean that a Halifax crash is coming in the future, or
I was thinking about that,
or are we just going to kind of settle in and hold steady for the next 10 years?
I think a Halifax crash is coming on the investment real estate side. Right. I think on the owner-owned homes and independently owned real estate, I think it'll be fine. We just didn't build that much of it, and the cost of the new stuff is just still so much higher. Not so much higher anymore, but like it's not undercutting the values of the current stuff. It's not like people are buying homes that are
single family. You mean?
Yeah, people aren't buying homes for $2 million that are being built for $1 million. It's like the new homes are coming on for $800-900. The old ones are like $600-700.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
The value protection's kind of there.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be a huge. Also, we are a huge beneficiary of increased military spending.
For sure.
And you're seeing it happen quickly. Like in Burnside, there's a bunch of new military companies being put up.
Look at the office rents, like we were just talking about this. Like it's hard to believe that we went through COVID, and Nova Scotia Canada was one of the biggest, working from home countries in the world. And I would say Atlantic Canada was out on steroids, like literally everybody
even before
for years. But somehow office rents are through the roof here. I was talking to someone last night at the meetup, and they said office rents are on par with Toronto as well. So it's just kind of tying it back to that.
The biggest, to your point,
makes no sense.
No, it doesn't, because the biggest difference is, and I talked to guys in Toronto who own office, they said it's the same thing. It's multi-bids for people to lease their office space from them. Here, we're at 35% vacancy. I mean, technically on paper now it shows we're at like 17%. Again, I'm not convinced on a lot of this data, because when you're out in the market, it's higher. It doesn't
feel that way.
It does not feel that way.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, again, we were talking about this before we came on, is our city has a lot of very large either family offices or investment funds that own a lot of it, and they have big piggy banks, a fair bit of dry powder, I hope, that is sustaining this market. Because in any other more competitive marketplace, rents would be down 35-40%, and it would be stuff dropping left, right, and center, right? So anyways, I'm not surprised by that in the slightest with the structure that we have here.
Why do you think none of the prices are coming down if there's that big of a vacancy on office?
Well, I mean, the vacancy's been there for 20,
they're just used to it.
Yeah, people bought the buildings,
right,
understanding that vacancy.
Yeah. And
again, the buildings are owned by firms that have so much powder, like it is almost irrelevant, and they're also just parking land.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these office buildings sit on massive parcels in prime locations with parking lots that have a ton of upside on that. So it's like, that's why you don't see these huge discounts. I know of like maybe one building that's privately owned by an individual in the city. I think we all know who that. Well, maybe not who's listening, but you know who that is.
Yeah.
And they're willing to trade it at half of appraisal. So it's very discounted because that's a private owner that's losing a ton of money every month and doesn't have the capital to do it.
Yeah.
All the other ones are owned by massive, massive firms and they bought them. The other thing with Halifax is most of it was purchased 10, 20 years ago at very reasonable rates.
Yeah.
Very reasonable cost. So their cost basis for most of these people is so low that they can survive it, right? Like we had a bunch of turnover, but not really on the giant, like on the mega scale side.
Yeah.
During that huge growth window, we had a few REITs come out and buy a couple big brand new buildings off of a few of the local guys, but those are REITs. They don't even care anyways. They're on their pension fund money. They need to make 2.8%, which they can still achieve.
Sure. Yeah.
So
blend it. Well, if anybody listening has office space that's not outrageously priced in Halifax for September 1st, let us know here. We're looking. Neal, let's dive in today. So This is a really interesting one here. So we've kind of touched on this in the past, but we're going to talk about specifically why you should consider investing your own capital into private mortgage deals. And that could be with your own private business, and we're going to kind of debate, using other people's money or investor capital and prioritizing using your own capital, right? And I think the thesis is pretty straightforward, but I think it's worth us diving into. So we'll talk about the benefits and the risks of using your own personal capital in private mortgage lending. Well, most private lenders look and they focus on using other people's money, or OPM. We're going to explore how to deploy your own capital into deals. Okay. So some crazy potential returns, but of course, additional risk exposure as well. So this will break it down, when and why it might make sense, how to evaluate different opportunities, and what to watch out for. So if you're a private lender ready to take the next step in scaling your business, hopefully this one will be helpful for you. Okay. You want to touch on kind of the traditional model with a private lending firm, or Mick?
Yeah. So, that's basically the OPM model, we'll call it. I like the acronyms. But the traditional model is taking in capital from institutions, investors, and other forms of leverage, paying a set rate on that amount of money, then putting your margin on it, and then relending it out. So you do all the underwriting administration to then relend it out and manage those funds. For example, base rate, let's say, is 5%. Well, we'll say 10%. And then you put your margin of 3% on it. Then you lend it out at 13%. You're making that 3% squeeze. You can also charge fees and all the other things that are involved in the process, but that's basically what it is you're getting the money at a certain cost, and then you're putting it out at another cost.
You're in the spread.
You're in the spread. It's a basic arbitrage.
Yep. And benefits of that too, Neal, would be obviously you can scale faster. Obviously most people's personal income is limited to a certain extent.
Yep.
So if you want to scale your private lending business, chances are you're going to need to leverage other people's money.
It's the same as buying real estate. You can buy it all cash.
Yep.
And you make a certain rate of return. But then when you start to take money that you can borrow at a lower rate than what you're returning on the property and the asset, your net effective return, it grows immensely as you get more and more debt on board.
Absolutely. So the alternative to this would be investing your own capital. So basically, if you're to lend, to Neal's examples there, say you're lending out at 13%, maybe 10%, 3% fee, let's say, just for sake of simplicity, and you're lending your own money out there, right? So you put $200K of your own money out there. You're earning, what's that, 20, 21, 25,000 or whatever it is. Like, it's a massive return. And then, potential fees you're getting on that, lender fees, renewal fees, early payout penalties if you don't have open terms, NSF fees, right? So all of that income, 100% of that income is coming back to you. And then you're generating, an effective return. Say you're less than a year, say you're 8 months or 9 months on that loan, you could be earning 18, 19, 20% on that one loan, right? So, you're looking at, the range typically is going to be the 10 to 20% range, which is hard to achieve on most investments. I'd say even on real estate investing, like, I don't know, you may have seen that on some home run deals, but I'd say most deals, especially in today's market, you're not returning that annually.
Not in a comparable workload, right? So like if you're willing to actively get in and get your hands dirty on a project or build something, or be in there doing it, but I wouldn't say that's a comparable investment to making a private loan. Like a private loan, you're putting the money out there, you're not going and doing any work after that. You're just administering it.
Exactly.
So if you look at if you just bought a piece of real estate and ran it and did nothing to it, you weren't like actively in there increasing rents, turning over units, doing improvements, adding units to it, then achieving 20% in real estate is impossible.
And the benefit too, if you do have those shorter terms on your loans, you actually recycle that capital, right? So you get that $200K back, it pays out, you invest in the next deal, or you invest in the next two deals for $100K each, and then you're earning fees and interest on those as well. So that's like the real way to scale this up from a personal investment perspective. Do you want to go through an example, Neal?
Yeah, we can go through an example. And I was going to say, I'm going to add, maybe I'll do, at the end, I'll do a little secret sauce potential idea. But
let's do it.
So a real life example is, let's say you want to do a $150,000 loan on a 12-month term at 12%. You're going to do a 2% lending fee, and hopefully it gets paid out a little bit early. So right off the hop, if you have $150,000, you're going to make $3,000 as a lender fee. And then at 12%, you're making $18,000 a year, or $1,500 a month. So if that's going on, let's say you get paid out in 6 months, you have now made $1,500 times 6, so $9,000 plus that 2% lender fee, which is $12K.
So 14% plus whatever fees.
Exactly. So you've made $12K on your...
In 6 months.
In 6 months, exactly. Yep. So you've made $12K on $150,000 in 6 months. So you've actually returned, what is that, 9%?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or 8%, sorry. 8% in 6 months.
Close enough.
So if you look at it like that, if you can immediately recycle that cash, you could potentially be making 16% over the course of a year. Even if you have a little bit of a bump, maybe you're at 14 or 15% if you miss a month.
Exactly. And so the benefits are fairly obvious with doing this, right? But another way to think of it too is if you start leveraging up, say you got, you started building up and you had 2 million or 4 million of other people's money, investor capital in your business, but then you start generating those returns on the spread. Mm-hmm. That is now your capital that you can reinvest and use the same method, right? And that's really where people have the most success in this business, is being able to reinvest those retained earnings, that you're earning that full 14 or 18% or whatever it ends up being on an annual basis versus earning that spread of 2 to 4 points.
100%. You're buying down your book and you're continuously compounding it.
Exactly. And that's how you win. So of course, some of the benefits, just to summarize here, full interest and fees go to you, not split with an investor. You have more flexibility in terms of decision-making if you're doing direct deals with investors. Mm-hmm. You've got skin in the game, so you're fully invested there. And of course, improve cash flow. You're just going to be generating more cash on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on when you're taking those dividends out. What about some risks, Neal?
I mean, first off, if you have your money out there, you are risking your money.
Of course.
When you're putting investors' money out there, you shouldn't look at it as it not being yours. But ultimately, if there is a loss, an investor understands they invested in a potential opportunity with the risk of a loss. Yeah. And typically, you're not personally guaranteeing that.
Less exposure if you're doing it that way.
Yes.
But less upside. Exactly.
And on that same note, you're tying up your cash. So there might be other opportunities that do come where there's an opportunity for a quick flip on a property and your cash is tied. So it does have some drawback in that sense. You're also opportunity cost, what we have on here. So that's the same thing. So you have this potential loss of other deals. You run the risk of your client defaulting. And again, when it's your money, you're immediately losing that return. So if you are expecting a monthly return or need that monthly return and it freezes up, that can be an issue for you. Additionally, you will lend a little bit differently knowing your money's in there. But I think if you're going to do a mix of it being your money and other people's money, they really appreciate knowing that your money is involved. Yep. That's been a question every investor's asked me, are you invested? And they've asked us, are all the partners invested?
Every single investor asked me that.
They want to know that...
The answer is yes, by the way.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I say we're all invested, and my family's invested too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, your family's invested too. Yeah. So this is not just us just convincing everyone to give a bunch of money and just be hand it out.
We believe in it.
Yeah, truly believe in it. Yeah. So I think it's good for you to have your money in there because you will be a little less risky. But I don't know, it's funny because it's like gambling where when you're staked, you gamble so much better.
Yeah.
Because it's not your money, so you can actually focus on the game.
Yeah.
But in this case, where I think too much risk is a bad idea, I think it's better for you to have your money because you're going to be a lot smarter and you're way less likely to get pressured. Because if you have just other people's money, the likelihood of you kind of feeling a bit of pressure to get it out, first of all, to get a return for your investor. Yeah. Second of all, to get yourself a nice big fee.
Yeah.
Right. So it's I think the mix is the best opportunity.
100%. 100%. And so how can you kind of mitigate these potential risks that could come your way, right? So you could start smaller as well. So say you do have $200K to invest, right? So, you could do 3 deals. You could do a $100K deal and then 2 $50K deals, and I wouldn't I'd say that with a grain of salt as well, is that, if those are 2 small second mortgages, maybe that's too much risk to take on out of the gate, and maybe you'd be better off going 100K in first position on a deal. But those are some different strategies you can kind of test out. I would highly recommend sticking to lower LTVs. That's just a good rule of thumb in this business in general. We always call the sweet spot 65% LTV. It gives you a nice margin of error if anything was to go wrong, and you always have to plan for that anyways. Mm-hmm. On top of having that exit strategy in place, things don't always play out to plan.
Yep.
You want that safety net. Consider using your own money in deals where you have, very, the borrower well, or the asset is excellent, and you could flip it and make your money back if you had to, or something that has a super strong exit. That's no different than any other deal you do for an investor's capital as well, but just something to always keep in mind. And of course, if you're running a private lender or a MIC, you always want to you just mentioned this, Neal, but you always want to blend your own personal capital with that investor capital as well, and just kind of make decisions as if it's all your money and how to best protect that asset.
Yeah. So I guess a little secret sauce, and I'll say it. If someone wants more information, I'll pass it out. And I haven't seen this much, but I think there is a unique opportunity, but it's to treat it similarly to real estate, which is basically you're buying loans in some sense. So if you think about it like this, let's say you got to put $100,000 out, and instead of taking, let's say, $100,000 from an investor or putting out $100,000 yourself, you get $80,000 from an investor and you put $20,000 yourself.
Yep.
You agree to pay the investor your set rate, let's say 10%.
Yep.
And then you can clean the rest of it. So what that means is they're going to make, and let's say you're going to lend the money out at 13% and a 2% fee. So your annual, you're going to bring in $13,000 plus the 2% fees. You're going to bring in $2,000 out. So you bring in $15,000. You owe the investor 10%. So you owe them $10,000.
$10,000.
So they made $8,000.
Yep.
They put $80,000. So you owe the investor $8,000.
Yep.
That leaves you $7,000. You made $7,000 on your $20,000. That's a 35% return.
Yep.
And that's the same thing you do in real estate. You're using leverage to make the investment. It's the same concept here.
Yep.
And the investors will actually like it sometimes. Sometimes if they see which return you're making, they might not love it. But the way to sell this to an investor, and that can be a really great opportunity, is you're putting their $80,000 first. So if there is a loss, you run the risk of losing your $20,000.
For sure.
And so it actually gives the investor a bit of buy down. So it's like, look, our loan is 65% loan to value on the property. And then within that, you're only 45% loan to value. So you're only literally loaning at a ratio of 45% loan to value on this property, because I'm basically buying that other 20% to cover your investment.
Really great point. We should do an episode on like AB loan structures like this. It's to Neal's point here. It's essentially like your second position within your own loan. So that would just be, you would just do one loan in first position, say to 65%.
Yeah.
But the investor would take on less risk and only own 45 or 50% of that 65, and then you would have the rest. So you'd essentially be in second position to that investor.
Yep.
But as a result, you get that 35% return versus a 10% return on a loan. And you're still technically, the loan is still bundled in first position. There's just one loan there. You'd all enforce together if you ever had to.
Exactly. And if you're in your head like, I don't want to be in second position, you probably should do the loan.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because then if you were putting all the money out, if you're not willing to put your 20 at the top of it, then I definitely wouldn't put my 100,000 on it at all.
100%.
So just a consideration is basically you're just buying pieces of loans that you would actually already do to begin with. Don't do riskier loans to make the money.
And this is, in the event of like a default of our business, we'd always prioritize investor capital before our own capital. So this is the way we operate our entire business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But in our early days, we did similar loan structures to this with some partners. We did like an AB type structure. And they can work out really well. They can be advantageous to both parties, right? So good way to potentially scale up there as well. So when does it make sense to invest personally? So if you do have a surplus of funds, if you just sold that rental property, or you're nearing retirement, maybe you've sold your business and you need to diversify some of your investments, that could be a great time to invest some of your personal funds. If you want to boost returns, Neal just gave you a great example how to boost potential returns. And if you're confident, if you've got that great pipeline of deals coming in, an excellent underwriting strategy and an exit strategy on those deals, chances are it's going to be a good investment opportunity for you to earn double-digit returns. And of course, you just, you demonstrate your own confidence to your investor pool by showing them that you are also invested yourself. Right, which is very important in this business. As Neal and I mentioned, it's a question every single sophisticated investor is asking: are you into? Right,
eating your own cooking.
Eating your own cooking. Great notes here, right? So, okay,
the meat is well done.
Yes, love it. Let's close it up, Neal.
Yeah, 100%. So, anyways, there's no one size fits all for this. It really depends on your situation, your end goals. This is the same with investing in real estate. Every person I've ever met with, they're like, "Do I buy this duplex?" I'm like, "Let's back this up for a second and see what are you trying to accomplish here before you make this decision." So it's the same with how you want to lend. Do you want to lend personally? Do you want to lend with a partner? Do you want to borrow people's money? Do you want to invest in a firm? You need to figure out what your end objective is and what your actual abilities are. Also, understanding that interest rate is a reflection of the risk associated with a deal. Like, you got to get your head wrapped around that. And so if there's a ton of risk in a deal, you still feel confident about it. Well, you need to increase your interest rate because you need to protect your capital. Just don't see it as being greedy. You got to look at it as there's really a science to it. It's math, and you need to be able to look at that and understand what that is. And so you need to figure out the risk, and then you can determine what that return is going to look like. If you do it well, there's a reason that finance makes the most millionaires and billionaires in the world. There's a huge, immense opportunity. Almost in some sense, it's infinite because there's so much capital out. There's so much opportunity in that world. You can really scale it to be as big as you want to. And it doesn't have to be a massively cumbersome business if you do it well.
Or it could be small on the other side of it too, right? You could run a very small shop with
and do very well.
deals and $1 million in capital, and you'd have an excellent source of income.
I have met people in the city that have quit their job and had a little pool of capital, and they just managed their pool of capital as a full-time gig, and they made as much or more than when they were working, but they're on their own schedule. They're
great way to live.
Much better lifestyle.
Absolutely.
They're at home with their family.
So just to wrap up here, if you're a lender or even a broker who's like interested in learning more about investing your own funds, if you want help evaluating deals or structuring your capital and scaling up, reach out to us at Keystone. Like, we're more than happy to chat on this and offer advice and try to point you in the right direction there. And please do follow and subscribe to the Canadian Private Lenders podcast. And we appreciate you all listening today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys. It's Neal, your co-host and co-founder at Keystone Mortgage Investment Corp. and Director of Investor Relations. I'm also a real estate agent, real estate investor, and business owner.
And your co-host and co-founder of Keystone Mortgage Investment Corporation, Ryan McNeil. Keystone MIC is licensed under the Mortgage Regulations Act of Nova Scotia, license number 3000844, and through FCMB, license 89280. Keep in mind, the views of this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not financial advice.